So after the field was covered with hailstones that was looking like salt. Next paragraph. Not a leaf remained on the trees. Not a leaf remained on the trees. The corn was totally destroyed. The flowers were gone from the plants. Lencho saw not a single leaf on the trees, plants, or any corn. The corn was totally destroyed. His corn field was totally destroyed because of hailstorm, बर्फबारी की वजह से. The flowers were gone from the plants. Plants पे no flowers were there. Flowers टूट के गिर चुके थे. Lencho's soul was filled with sadness. When the storm had passed, he stood in the middle of the field and said to his sons, seeing all these destructive events made by the nature, this was the conflict of in between nature and Lencho, nature and human. So after being very distressed by these events, activities, Lencho was very sad. His soul was shaken, and he was standing in the middle of the field, saying to his son, talking to his sons. He said, "A plague of locust wood." Locust means you can see in the side of the capsule, insects which fly in the big swarms. Swarms मतलब group होता है, ठीक है. तो वो इंसेक्ट्स जो कि फसल को बर्बाद करते हैं, जिसके लिए हम लोग इंसेक्टिसाइड्स और पेस्टिसाइड्स वगैरह डालते हैं खेतों में लोग. तो ये कंपेयर कर रहा है लेंचो कि इंसेक्ट्स लोकस्ट जो होते हैं, इफ लोकस्ट वुड हैव अटैक टू आवर फील्ड, दे कुड हैव लेफ्ट समथिंग फॉर अस. वो अगर अटैक करते, फसल बर्बाद करते, तो भी कुछ ना कुछ रह जाता. बट दिस हेल स्टॉर्म लेफ्ट नथिंग बिहाइंड. ही इज कंपेयरिंग एंड ही इज सेइंग दैट which one is, I mean, out of the two, locusts, a group of locusts or hailstorm, which one is good for him? For him, it is locust which could have left something. ऐसा वो कह रहा है कि locust को छोड़ भी देते, hailstorm ने तो कुछ छोड़ा ही नहीं. They have left more than this. वो कह रहा है locust को ज़्यादा छोड़ के जाते हैं यहाँ पे. The hail has left nothing. This year we will have no corn. वो बोल रहा है hail कुछ नहीं छोड़ा है. This year we will have no corn. खाने के लिए हमारे पास corn नहीं होगा. That night was a sorrowful one, very sorrowful, sad night. That was all our work for nothing. Lencho is saying whatever effort we had made into the field, all are in vain. They are in, they are of no use, worthless. ऐसा ये कह रहा है. There is no one who can help us in this valley because we are the only people living in this valley on the top of the mountain. We all go hungry this year. Now Lencho is saying maybe we'll go hungry this year. There could be starvation. भुखमरी भी हो सकती है because they were poor, they were dependent on their field and the field was destroyed. Move to the next para. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house. Solitary means all alone, single, right? उस वैली पे एक मात्र घर था उसका, solitary house था लेंचो का. And those who were living in that solitary house, in the hearts of all the people there in that house, there was a single hope, and that hope, वो उम्मीद थी, help from God. They believed in God, and Lencho was a firm believer, and he had deep belief in God. He believed that God will help him. He can communicate with God. He can demand from God. So such was his belief in God. Don't be so upset even though this seems like a total loss. Remember, no one dies of hunger. Now Lencho talks to his family members. He's saying don't be so upset. इतनी upset होने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, tension में आने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Even though means हालांकि, चूँकि, even though this seems like a total loss to us, we are left with nothing. Remember, no one dies of hunger. He's saying don't forget that in this world, on this earth, no living organism dies of hunger. कोई भूखे नहीं मरता है, ऐसा वो कह रहा है. All through the night, Lencho thought only of one hope, the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything. Now, throughout the night, that night, Lencho was thinking only about one thing, about one hope, and the hope was he would get some help from God, whose eyes, according to Lencho को लगता है कि भगवान की आंखें हर किसी पे होती है. He believed, he was instructed that God's eye is everywhere. He sees everything, all the sorrows and happenings. ऐसा इंस्ट्रक्टेड, यहाँ पे एक वर्ड यूज किया गया है एज ही हैड बीन इंस्ट्रक्टेड. इंस्ट्रक्टेड का सेंस यहाँ पे है कि लेंचो इज टॉकिंग, राइटर इज सेइंग कि लेंचो वाज when he was a child or kid, he was taught such things by his parents, guardians, teachers, that God knows everything, God sees everything, God helps poor and everything. So he's saying God sees everything, and this was what he was taught, instructed when he was a child. So he's saying God will help. Even what is deep in one's conscience. Conscience means when you are capable of thinking about what is good for you and what is bad for you. This is what we call conscience. So ये उसके conscience में था कि ये उसकी सोच थी कि भगवान help करेंगे, and this was what he was taught since his childhood. Lencho was an ox of a man. ये एक proverb है. This is a proverb that means he was a laborious person, walking like an animal in the field, but still he knew how to write. Yes, that was true. He was a farmer, laborious farmer, but he was a literate person. Literate means one who can read and write, one who can understand. So he was knowing how to write. The following Sunday, next Sunday, at daybreak. Daybreak means morning. At the sun, in the morning, he began to write a letter which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. He decided to write a letter. Guys, you know to whom he will be writing the letter? Yes, you're right. He will be writing to the God. I know you guys are answering, seeing this video. So, he decided to write a letter to the God, and he himself will go to the post office to place this letter into the mailbox. It was nothing less than a letter to God. He decided to write a letter to the God. In his letter, he wrote, God, he wrote. He started writing from the first word. He wrote, God, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. I need 100 pesos in order to sow, S-O-W, sow my field again and to leave until the crop comes. Because the hailstorm, ... means he explained many reasons why he is asking for money. He wrote, God, if you don't help me this year, my family and I will go hungry. वो कह रहा है कि अगर आप हमारी मदद नहीं करते हैं पैसे दे करके, मनी दे करके, तो मैं और मेरी फैमिली starvation से मर जाएंगे, भूखे रह जाएंगे. And he asked, he demanded 100 pesos. Pesos is the denomination of currency used in Latin American countries like Argentinians, Brazilians, Spanish people use these currency and they call pesos. So he asked, so you can consider this story from any of these countries. There is no country name mentioned in the story. You can consider any of the countries that I have told you. So he asked 100 pesos from the God, and he wanted these money for two purposes. This is a very important line. If I ask you for what reason he asked God, he demanded God 100 pesos, you will say he asked the money 100 pesos for two purposes. First, to sow his field again, and second, to get livelihood until the new crop comes. This is the reason. And he also said, because I want this money because the hailstorm destroyed this, right? He wrote to God on the envelope. उसने envelope पे लिखा address. Like we have discussed in previous classes, like in 9th standard we have discussed formal letters, informal letters. Basically formal letters we write sender's address, receiver's address. In the same way, in the older times people used some kind of envelope to write letters. उसमें वो लोग रिसीवर्स एड्रेस में लिखते थे टू करके और सेंडर्स में लिखते थे फ्रॉम. तो उसने टू में मतलब रिसीवर एड्रेस में लिखा था सिंपली, क्या उसने लिखा था, टू गॉड. पुट द लेटर इनसाइड, उसने पॉकेट में रख लिया. एंड स्टिल ट्रबल, अभी भी वो मतलब उसके अंदर एक टेंशन था. वेंट टू टाउन, ही मूव टू द टाउन फॉर द पोस्ट ऑफिस. एट द पोस्ट ऑफिस ही प्लेस द स्टाम्प ऑन द लेटर एंड ड्रॉप्ड इट इनटू द मेल बॉक्स. ही मूव देयर एंड ड्रॉप द लेटर इनटू द मेल बॉक्स. One of the employees, who was a postman and also helped at the post office, went to the boss laughing heartily and showed him the letter to God. When one of the postmen working in that post office took the letter of Lencho from the mailbox, he was laughing I mean loud. He was laughing heartily, बहुत जोर जोर से ठहाके लगा के हंस रहा था, because he was surprised and he was thinking that who can be such kind of fool writing this letter to the God. God के पास कौन लिख सकता है letter. Never in his career as a postman had he known that address. वो postman सोच रहा है कि मैंने अपने करियर में जब तक मैं काम कर रहा हूँ पोस्ट ऑफिस में postman की तरफ, I had never seen such address, like to God. Where is the address of God? He was laughing like that. The postmaster, a fat, amiable. You can see the meaning of amiable written in the screen. Amiable is friendly and pleasant. तो एक पोस्ट मास्टर था वहाँ पे. पोस्ट मास्टर इज द हेड ऑफ द पोस्ट ऑफिस. जब वो पोस्टमैन पोस्ट मास्टर के पास जाकर के वो सारी बातें बता रहा है, हंस रहा है, तो पोस्ट मास्टर जो बहुत ही हेल्दी था, हेल्दी मीन्स एक्सेसिव खाता पीता करता था, प्लम्प जिसको बोलते हैं हम लोग उसको, फैट था और बहुत ही फ्रेंडली भी था fellow, also broke out laughing, but almost immediately he turned serious and tapping the letter on his desk commented. But वो अचानक हंसते हंसते वो अचानक से चुप हो गया and immediately he turned serious. उसके चेहरे पे एक सीरियसनेस आ गया. टैपिंग मतलब पटकना ऐसे जोर से टेबल पे हाथ को. टैपिंग द लेटर, वो लेटर को टेबल पे पटकता है जोर से. ऑन हिज डेस्क कमेंटेड, और वो फिर कमेंट करता है, बोलता है व्हाट अ फेथ. ये कैसी फेथ है बताइए. what kind of people are there, still such people live on this earth, those who have firm faith in God. He was surprised and he was happy to know this, so that's why he said what a faith. I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter. बोल रहा मैं उम्मीद करूँगा कि मैं इस बंदे का फेथ बना कर रखूँ, इसके अंदर मेरी फेथ बनी रहे. Starting up a correspondence with God, one who started a communication with God. So in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea. Now the postmaster decided not to shake his faith in God, not to break the faith of Lencho in God. He decided and he came up with an idea. उसको पता था, he knew that there is no address of God. Lencho's letter will not be delivered to God. He will be returned with his letter. So he'll be broken with his faith. So he decided and got an idea. He decided that answer the letter. He decided to answer that letter to Lencho so that his faith will be alive. But when the postmaster opened that letter to read what Lencho had written and what kind of reply he wanted from God, it was evident that to answer it, ये बिल्कुल साबित था, वहाँ पे एविडेंट था कि उस लेटर को पढ़ने के बाद पोस्टमास्टर को ये लगा, ये साबित हो गया that he needed something more than goodwill, ink and paper. He came to know that no, only your goodwill means आपका अच्छापन होना, किसी के लिए अच्छाई दिखाना, आपका goodwill, his goodwill and ink and paper will not suffice the requirement of Lencho. He needed more from God. But he stuck to his resolution. But the postmaster was decided. He had made his mind. He came up with the resolution, making a plan to execute. Resolution means making a plan, new idea to resolve it, to make a solution. और उसने क्या किया? He asked for money from employees. He himself gave part of his salary, and several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. Now the postmaster decided to collect money from all the employees in the post office, and he himself contributed some part of his salary, maybe 20%, 30%, 50% of his salary. And in this way, all the members at post office, collected some money, whatever he demanded, considering it as the act of charity, like helping poor.